Hello, world, and welcome to the Creating Light with Kelsey podcast. We have another guest today, and her name is Kristen Lightwork. And she's a professional spiritual medium and tarot reader. Growing up as a military brat, she discovered that it wasn't just the houses that were haunted along the journey. She has always had a deep connection with the spiritual realm and paranormal ever since she was a little girl. Those experiences led her to use her intuitive discernment and channel to bring forth messages from the other side. She uses her gifts to help others to find spiritual alignment in their lives and bridge the gap to the and bridge the gap to the belief in the spirit world. Her readings involve the use of divination through tarot and channeling with your spirit guides to bring forth the messages that need to come through for the highest and best purposes of those that she connects with. Her passion is showing how to work with the tools that are given alongside with the spiritual realm to discover the true alignment that we are here to accomplish. Hello, Kristen. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Kelsey, thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
And another thing I do like to mention is how I've met the guest along the way, and it's all been through other spiritual containers.
Yeah, absolutely, which is beautiful.
Yeah, it's been through community and then community. I've met people and then created more community. So I really like how that connects and interacts. And we met through Taylor Simpson's community.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome.
Yeah,
And it was like so inspiring.
it was what?
It was so inspiring to be a part of that collective and to like meet you and to still continue
Mhm.
to grow such an awesome friendship with you. So, yeah, it's been amazing.
Yeah, you actually still found me because I went completely off grid around 2020. I deleted all of social media and all contacts and had a brand new profile, everything. And then somehow, like, you still came back along and found my new stuff and connected with me.
Yes, it was so purposed. I really had a response to you. And I think in that container, especially when they did the hot seats, when you can share, I
Mm,
think there was something like that where you were sharing and I was like, I really resonate. And that's really how those containers work. And so I
yeah.
think when I saw your content or I seeked you out, I could have seeked you out too, because I really liked your energy. It was so cool that we
Yeah.
could connect from that. Yeah.
Yeah, you were like, where did she go? Now that is she back on social media? I took like a full year off and then came back on with completely different handles and all of that.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
Amazing.
Hmm.
Amazing. And look at you now.
I know. So, what does soul liberation mean to you?
Soul liberation to me is the freedom to anchor your life in alignment without society's projections or circumstances that you have came into this world with. That is when it's like when you know you're making decisions for your soul, for yourself, without the filters of what you've been shown or told or adapted to in life. That's soul liberation when you feel free.
Yeah, that deprogramming process.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's huge.
When did you start that deprogramming process?
Oh, probably for me, like short but big story, big epic story was choosing to have my son. That was soul liberation. I was 19, I was a young mom. And so really honoring that. I had a full ride scholarship at the time. I was like the golden child of the family, but then I'm also, pregnant right away and really deciding that was a big choice. That was me stepping forward and ever since then and obviously that was such a blessing for me. My life has been my own.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Which that leads me to the next question of,
Yeah.
was that part of what helped you like get on the path of helping others? Like what started
Oh
that
yeah.
whole process?
Um, yes, absolutely it was because I've always been super tapped in with the paranormal and spirit. So if you went into like my mom's basement and found my old journals, you would see like even in the seventh grade and sixth grade, I was using my journals to communicate with higher realms, essentially prayers, right? I was praying to God
Mm.
at the time, or I was asking my ancestors, please help me with decisions. So if you can only imagine that young girl, then pregnant at 19, I'm asking some big signs. And I got huge, big visual signs. I actually had a dream of my son before I ever knew he was a son. Before I ever knew he was a boy, I had a dream of this curly haired boy on top of, my ex at the time, right? My ex's shoulders. And I knew I was supposed to have him. And my son, when he was born, had curly, beautiful brown hair. I mean, he was the exact boy that I saw on the shoulders. And I knew that was like a prophetic dream that I had. It's like, I'm here to birth him and I'm here for so much more. So
Mm.
it was, my life has kind of been spiritual validation for the interconnectedness of the outside realms and the everyday life. So yeah, this is a huge, huge part of it for me.
Yeah, wow. So at 19, you're already like, okay, I'm gonna birth this baby, but also I'm meant to help others too.
Yeah. Oh yeah, because I was connecting, and that's how I feel like for all of us healers and spiritual entrepreneurs and people that are here to literally help others to be of service. When you go through a life experience, more than likely you're going to be pushed into these circles with other people that are in those same sort of predicaments. And my feeling is sharing is caring, right? So I would always connect with certain people that I would end up sharing messages, or I'd end up really providing my own insights and helping them through something. I would always end up not trying to guide people, but kind of help guide people in certain ways. And that just became very natural. And then spirit would come in, of course, too, with that. And
Mm.
that was part of my big spiritual journey, was accepting that it was more than just me knowing that the dead was around, or knowing there was channeled messages to bring forward. Didn't know it was a channeled message, but knowing I had to say something, was, taking those sort of journeys and helping people and saying, oh wow, okay, there's different interconnectedness with these communications I'm having with these people. So it was huge.
And how old were you? Was it early 20s when that was happening? That had started?
Mhm.
Wow.
Yeah. And even like, to be honest, so I have two kids, and even after my daughter, I had a lot more spiritual stuff happening because I come from a line that is known for having spiritual women. So I have a great I was gonna say grandfather, but I do, but a great grandmother that was a seer in the Appalachian Mountains. And
Wow.
so even as a young girl, my grandma, her ancestor, would tell me these things and always make sure like I knew I wasn't the only one sensing spirit in the room. Ghost stories were great from grandma, but after she passed was shortly after my daughter was born. And all of my mediumship came in right then. And
Mm.
had it before, but knowing how to communicate and channel is a different aspect. I think we can all sense energy, but actually knowing what to do with it, like to dissect it, that's your own practice. And I really started after that because I could feel my grandmother was like communicating with me, sending me signs, and I'm like, what does it mean? But all of that really came in. I mean, I was 23 when I had my daughter, so that was that time. Yeah.
So it took a bit for, I guess, the ego then to be like, wait,
Oh
this
yeah.
isn't just me. I'm not like this wise person by myself helping these people along the way.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That was it's really important for all of us to pay attention to where we're drawn to, places, people, studies, things.
Hmm.
And I really paid attention at that point. And I started getting into a circle with my spiritual journey where I would be led to I was led to a medium who told me, okay, you're a medium. And she was telling me other big, huge signs. But sometimes we kind of need that. We kind of need that person to be like, I see that in you because I'm that. And I had that full circle journey. And that's also something that I love to see in other people in that aspect too. And I connect with them. But it's really following where you lead is leading you on your soul purpose. And that's a huge soul purpose for me here is doing that, connecting those spiritual dots.
I had that happen to me, I think in 2022. I was I went to see an esthetician and getting a facial, and then she was just like, she's a very blunt Hungarian lady, and she just loves that. She's loud and proud in that sense. She's like, I'm just gonna serve it to you straight. And she's like, you're psychic. You're immediate. You need to get trained by my teacher, and I'm gonna
Yeah.
give you my card. And I was like, oh. Who, what's your name again? I'm just trying to get a facial. And it was very forward of like, you need to do this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, those people are huge checkpoints, I feel like, on our journeys, meeting
Mhm.
them. They like lead us on to the next direction. It's huge.
So tell us a little bit more about the part in your bio, which goes into what you're saying of what brought you on the path of helping others, of being connected to the paranormal, but then knowing that these houses aren't just haunted or you're moving a lot of places, being a
Mhm.
military brat. So that was right from the get.
Yeah, it was. It really was. I actually joke sometimes because I remember when I was a little kid and I was like, I remember it was like, I feel like I was 2 years old, no lie. I stuck a metal fork into an electrical outlet. And sometimes my grandma and my mom joke around, like maybe that's really what it was. Because ever since I was little, I was always saying something or like, oh, I see this. But um, awareness is huge, and especially for little kids. And everywhere that I moved as a military brat, there I have a story. I have a ghost story, I have a paranormal story. And I always sensed other energies. And my mom would even joke, I would always go to the forest. Like we'd always end up living places that were close to like woods or like a bunch of trees. I always felt good in the trees. So I'd always go to these places I would move that had the forest or the woods or the trees. And my mom would look out or she'd find me and I'd be talking to no one in her mind, but I could tell you who I was talking to. All of that came really real because after when I lived in Maryland, so if you look up the Naval Academy in Annapolis, it's old. Okay. It's so old. And I lived in one of probably the most haunted apartments for military housing that there was. It was insane. Multiple people in that building have
Mm.
stories, not just me. But that's what my clue was because other places, not everybody did. Not everyone was seeing or feeling what I was sensing. And so I shortly realized around like sixth grade that there was a lot more to this than just houses being haunted. Because how come I could pick up spiritual energy at my friend's house, but they're like, what are you talking about? Like, you're crazy. I'm like, no, I'm not. So that's kind of how that came to be. Now, to me, mediumship and sensing the spirits are kind of two different things because I feel like anybody, you could walk into a room or walk into a building, walk onto land, okay? And you're going to sense energy shifts happening, right? But at the same time, mediumship is when you are actually receiving, not just awareness. So when I was open to receiving communication and actually transmitting it, you know what I mean? Like actually giving it back, that was training. Understanding and seeing spirit and the paranormal, that is your physical senses that you're sensing. And the more that you announce that you're sensing it, the more that you actually acknowledge, like, hey, I see you, you're going to see them more. And it's also the same way with mediumship, right? The more that you get used to saying, I feel I'm getting this message, or I hear, this is what I hear. I'm going to write it down. I'm going to see how this resonates. It's a test. It's like, and when I say test, what I mean is for your own personal practices for people, what I recommend is looking at mediumship like kind of like a cause and effect, kind of like really saying, okay, my hypothesis is this is what I think it is, and then see what happens with the message you deliver. So it was kind of like a science experiment to learn how, is this what I'm sensing? Is this me? Oh, this is from me. This is from outside spirit. Really breaking it down is the mediumship aspect of it and training yourself to be open to it. But sensing the paranormal, it's being super aware and being okay with stillness. You're going to be able to sense what's there and what's not, what's normal, what's not. That's the entities or that's different energies, imprints, energetic imprints. Not everything is an intelligent spirit that's coming in, but you can sense that with just stillness. And I will say, as a military brat and as an Aquarius, I'm okay with like, kind of still and quietness. But that's why I think I learned how to connect or how to decipher who was with me because I didn't have friends all the time, or I was very alone all the time as a kid. So it was really easy for me to interpret it.
And a lot of people don't like stillness. They don't
Yeah.
like to just sit because it's not only, they'll say like, oh, I'm my thoughts. It's a scary place to be. But then
Right.
there is so much more that they probably intuitively know that they would pick up on, which would feel quote unquote scary, intimidating, all of that.
Yeah.
What is it right now about your work that you're loving the most?
I love reading for people. I really do love reading for people. I love showing people things or telling people, hey, this is what I do, try it. But I love reading for people and helping someone get the validation for themselves that they're not crazy or that this is really happening. I love reading for skeptics. I love reading for people who've never had readings before because I just like to open the door. Like, I just like to open the door. Like, here you go. This is what I sense. Now, if I'm sensing this and I have no clue who you are, I don't know you from Adam or anything, okay? there has to be something there with that realm you don't see, right? And that's what I really love, is opening up people to, there's so much more to this life than what you were shown or raised into. It's all your toolbox. You just got to be able to open it up and use it.
And so what type of readings do you give people?
They start out as, tarot. Like I use tarot and different forms of divination to help get more of the message across. I was a very visual learner as a kid, so tarot for me and oracle like makes a lot of sense. It shows symbolism. But of course, not every tarot card, if you get the Fool and someone else gets the Fool, it doesn't mean it's the same thing, right? So that's the intuitive. But my intuitive channeling and my mediumship comes out with just sitting with people. So it's a lot about giving readings that are just like, let's just see what's going on. Let's see what I pick up. Okay, if I'm there and this is resonating, let's try and help decipher what you need to do with this. And then let's also see who's around you, what spiritual energies, what loved ones are trying to bring forth any communication. That's really my readings. I really don't know how to structure them, because to me, everyone is totally different from what they need. I just open myself up to whatever needs to be said.
Hmm. And I think that's the best way to do it because you can't really, spirit's so fluid.
Absolutely.
And then,
Absolutely.
and from what I know, they have to try really hard to condense their essence into a way that we can actually hear it as a human. So
Yeah.
it's like you can't have, if the wider the opening or the less structure, then there's more ways for them to come through.
Hugely. Yeah, because they come through all of your senses and through so many different ways. Some people are those, visual mediums. They have that clairvoyance and they see everything. But that's really not all of them. That's really not all of us. Clairvoyance is not necessarily my strongest, really. For me, it's feelings. It's kind of like claircognizance, the knowing, a clear knowing.
Hmm.
I imprinted. So if you just say, before you do any sort of healing work, and this is what I say, I always say, Spirit, allow for me to know what I need to know, see what I need to see, hear what I need to hear, say what I need to say, trust where I need to trust, and go where I need to go. And I hold these open because I have my own tattoos that are activations for me.
Mm.
But that is like, okay, no matter what I see, if I get a random visual, no matter what I hear, if I feel like I'm hearing words or songs, no matter what I feel like I can't help but say, because my throat will get really clogged if I don't say it, it's all purpose for that moment, right? So then in those times that I say something like that, or you claim it when you start off a session with someone, you're spiritually, contractually obligated to honor your spiritual ethics. And that's how I kind of just let things come in just like that. You just never know. You never
Yeah.
know how spirit's going to give you those messages or imprints. And that's your trust journey too with it.
Mm. That leads in nicely to the next question of what does it mean to be a medium? Because
Yeah.
I mean, it's been so warped by media over and just over thousands of years after the witch
Absolutely.
trials and all of that. And so, what does that
Absolutely.
mean, and why do you think it's way more intuitive than people lead on?
Yeah, I feel like a medium is just, you're literally the intermediary. Like you're literally like, listen, you're the two-way mirror. That's probably the best way to say it. You're the two-way mirror. You can feel, sense, get imprints, get visuals. You're saying this is what I see and this is what I'm delivering out to you. This is what I'm expressing to you. A medium is someone that can sense the differences or sense something to say. You're in between the realms. That's really what I want to say with it. And it's intuitive, like I said, because it's so much more about your feelings than people let on.
Mm.
And a lot of the times, hey, don't get me wrong. Like when Long Island Medium came out, like I was Teresa Caputo's like biggest fan. Like I was obsessed, because they didn't have any big mediums on shows that were also doing these random popped readings. Okay. And I say that with quotes and love. Okay. Because I still love her. But anyways, um, I feel like there's certain agreements that have to be taken place for you to just go up and read someone. So
Yes,
there
yeah.
could be some setup with that. But overall, mediumship is very real. Okay. And obviously we know that from the history that all these different cultures all over the world have talked about different types of seers, communicators, people that are channeling from the different realms. And we're just here to be messengers, but everyone has that within them. And it's if you want to, if you're channeled to do that or not. And more than likely, most people have given messages, advice to people that really needed it at the right time. They just didn't know they were activating that wise voice was really like their spirit guide or their loved one or that person's grandparent that's coming through. They just can't see all the things, but they deliver the message. So it's very intuitive. It's very easy. I don't want to say, I should say easy. No, because I don't want it to feel hard and I don't want it to feel gatekept. It can be easy as long as you're dedicated to why you want to, if you want to be an actual medium, as long as you're dedicated to the practice, you can turn it on. And it's all about dedication and commitment, just like any sort of workout, just like any muscle you're trying to build. It is about the practice of it. But it's very intuitive. It's much more than, oh, I'm seeing this. What are you feeling is more what you should really ask. What are you feeling with mediums?
Yeah, yeah. I feel like I
Mhm.
have more of the clairaudience and the
Oh, yeah.
claircognizant and the sentience, so the feeling. Yeah, the visual is not as strong, like you said.
A lot of that is, I feel like our clairvoyance has the biggest trust block to unlock. It is the biggest self-trust block to unlock. It's also, if you really think about it, kind of scary sometimes, right? It can be fear
Mhm.
activating because it's like, well, shit, now I'm really seeing, do I really want to see? Or are you afraid of something that you're going to see? It's really
It's usually
thinking
that
about,
one. I'm afraid of what you're
yeah,
gonna see. And I think
yeah,
that goes into the taboo concept because of how it has been portrayed in the media for so long, like as it being scary. Or the
yeah,
main thing as far as spirit goes is haunted house relational
mhm,
wise, not just
right,
your normal, you're picking up on messages and it's a channel thing.
right. Completely agree. Yeah, it's not as scary and taboo. Now, it doesn't mean that you're not gonna like, I obviously also believe duality, right? Like it's not all rainbows and sunshine. But the biggest thing with activating your mediumship or like utilizing it, allowing yourself to be that open is trusting how protected you are and how you are actually more powerful in this body right here that you're channeling than what you think. And that really helps, at least for me, helps me walk through certain energies or walk certain places that I absolutely feel very negative energy. Don't get me wrong. But I know I'm not going to leave any, like, take anything with me because I know how protected I am. And that's a falsity that people try and portray in the media to get you not to do it, right? Because
Mm.
why would they want everybody to be so woken up that you see through all the lies and bullshit spewed to you? Why would they want that, right?
Right, yeah. It's
Mhm.
harder to control.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, I think that in that protection component, it's also like it's on us to instill that.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like, yes, there is just natural protection in place, whether or not you're connected to the other realms or your ancestors. But if you're not intentionally and consciously putting it up, then that is also on you. Like you are a sovereign being in that to where you have to decide to do that too.
Absolutely agree. Absolutely 100% agree. It's so important.
So with that, with opening your channel, that it
Mm.
does mean that you're opening it, period. You're
Yeah.
opening
Mhm.
it to all. So how does one, I guess two-part question, how do you open your
Yeah.
channel, but also how do you protect yourself and build that discernment?
I think for everyone it is a little different, but I do think for me personally, it was to open the channel for me and what I want to and want to help other people learn how to do in any of my courses that I'm building to help people learn to open their channel is you're making an agreement with your spirit guides. And you are doing kind of like I said earlier, those sort of spiritual code of ethics for yourself, essentially to say, I'm willing to go on this journey. I'm willing to see everything that is divinely organized for me to see. I'm asking to be protected in divine light, to step into spaces that might be scary to the human side of myself, but I'm open to conquering that. And I'm open to being a channel and a messenger. So for me, opening your channel is kind of a contractual agreement, to be honest. Now, I'm also an accountant by day, so I kind of think business wise, right? So that's another reason why I think that resonates for me. But I feel like you're supposed to do that also with yourself, okay? That kind of helps you get in tune with it, and you're making an agreement to self and spirit, all right? How to actually do that, or how do I want to say, to protect yourself and to honor yourself, that is where, to me, a lot of these spiritual tools come into play. So, like crystals and your frequency of your room, the frequency of your energy, what you're allowing yourself to consume is a big part of that, of clearing, opening your channel. You know, if you're always consistent, I'm a foodie by nature. Okay, I love food, but I know that if I am eating my comfort foods all the time before a big event, like I just had a big event this weekend and I read for 16 people. So I know that I couldn't have the mac and cheese that I loved. I couldn't have that before. Like that's gonna clog my channel. That's gonna remind me of my child, my inner child that always needed to be helped. That's gonna taint my channel. But if I'm watching what I'm consuming, if I'm eating healthy and light, drinking a lot of water, I'm better for my channeled purposes. I'm better for bringing things in. I think it really starts to be kind of a lifestyle of treating yourself really good. And that's where it is like your body is your temple. But also, if your body is your temple, what do you offer to yourself? Which is like the crystals, which is the spiritual rituals for myself that I do. I'm very ritualistic and I like to light candles. I like to honor myself in that sort of way. And I think that's like super important to do that. So you can show that you honor your channel and what is coming in. Again, it's a practice. I absolutely feel like study and self-study is super important with it, and testing things, right? So this would be like how you say, Kelsey, you have a lot of clairaudience. So anytime that you hear something spiritually, you're writing that down. Now, I dare you that if you are getting a clairaudient message with someone else and you're sitting there and you're hearing it, can you say, hey, can you just give me a moment? I feel like I'm hearing something. I'd like to express it. No judgment. Take what resonates, leave what doesn't. I just want to see, does this make sense? And see what happens. Now, if that person is like, holy crap, Kelsey, how did you do that? Yeah, that totally makes a lot of sense. You're going to then recognize, oh, wow, I can really trust this. I can trust this tool. I can trust that what I'm hearing is correct. So to me, it's kind of like always activating, practicing your gifts, doing that.
Mhm.
So I hope that makes sense.
I have a real life example of something recently, and then knowing talking about the discerning component
Mhm.
of, and it was just, for me, and but discerning if it's of the highest good or not, or if
Yeah.
it's false light that's coming in. And it was something coming in, tell me to do something involving like dating realm, because I'm open to dating.
Mhm.
And then it's been coming in just I let it come and go. I've heard it, never entertained it. And then the one time I entertained it with a thought of like, okay, what if I do that? All of my shadows just went woof and like activated so big. And I was like, false light, false light. I was like, that was a good one.
So
That was a
good.
good
Yeah.
one. I thought I
Yeah.
heard something that was no, but it was going to deter me instead of actually put me on a direction that I'm wanting to go.
Huge, huge,
But with
huge.
that, you have to know, yeah, like you said, yourself, your internal world. Like I know my
Mhm.
shadows. I have a relationship with my shadows. I know the
Right.
feelings of them. So when that was
Mhm.
activated, I'm like, if
No.
light is coming in that way to tell me to go somewhere, there's a difference of discomfort because I'm going out of my comfort zone or doing something new. But for a shadow desire and just full on abandonment stuff to just immediately get activated as soon as I entertained one thing that I heard was
Oh, yeah.
not it. But that's
Yeah,
testing the material.
it
Like,
is. And see, and that's the test, and that's the full proof of it. And like you said, with discernment and like protection in that arena with this, and like opening your channel and staying super protected and like knowing what's yours and what's not. That's the duality of it. Discernment is so real. And so you knew exactly like, yeah, I recognize those shadows. I see that. It's the things that are not recognizable, right? It's that energy, especially if you're sitting with someone that you're like, that is not mine.
hmm
That's when you're like, okay, yeah, I know I can say that, because sometimes we're shown just to see, this is yours. This is from you. This is something you need to see and acknowledge. With protection through that, again, I feel like it's a lot about your practices, but also honoring that you don't entertain the things that activate your fear, right? You don't play into that, and you kind of understand that you have a divine purpose that you're turning these sort of gifts on, and you ask. I do say it. Listen, closed mouths don't get fed, right? So if you're not asking for that protection,
Yeah,
you're just raw dogging the messages. You know what I mean? Like, you don't know what's going to happen.
that's what
You
I'm
could
saying. Yeah.
absolutely get those messages, but if you're not like wrapping yourself. One of the things that I do visually is I wrap myself in divine gold light. I actually work with a lot of gold light and green light to me. And gold light is something that I wrap myself in for protection, divinity, honoring and claiming. I'm here to bring messages for the highest aligned purposes of other people or who I sit with. We do not entertain the messages from the dark.
Yeah, the chaos
Mhm.
energy. We're not
Yeah.
trying to contribute to that.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. What does the green light mean for you?
Heart chakra energy, healing energy. I think of Archangel Raphael.
Mm.
I work a lot with archangels as well. Even in the shower today, I did like a cord cutting and sealing ritual that I always do. And I've had a lot of connection with archangels. So for the green light, I visualize lights that come in almost like glitter air, is what I want to
Mm.
describe it. And so, like when I'm cleaning, it's a big thing to do when you do divination, just like your aura, or when you want to ground and cleanse your energy, you want to cleanse your tools, and cleanse your space. And I use pendulums to do that. And when I do that, I will see in my third eye the same visual, right? So if I was cleansing this phone as we're talking, okay, I would see right now in my third eye as I'm still talking to you, green glitter dust going down into the
Mm.
earth and imagining that it is infused with gold light around it. Now, the green is just taking what has been used as healing and pushing it down. The gold is renewing it. So
Hmm.
that's what that means to me. Mhm.
That's a lot of visualization stuff. I used to think, used to. I'm like, does this even work? Is this
Yeah.
real when I visualize these protective things and
Mhm.
all of that? And then again, testing your material of I had real life moments of
Yeah.
people humans trying to impede on my energetic field. But then when I would, and I just kept putting up those protection and kept putting it up, then the energy fully shifted and then they stopped. Because it was one of those things that I don't think they knew that they were doing it. I think it was the
Mhm.
shadows running the show and then coming
Yeah.
in but I had that field so strong and then it stopped. But
Yeah.
that's when I was like, okay, I visualize this. This does work. It's not me making shit up or because I read things and like
Right. No, it's really because it's so easy to turn it off because we're programmed to turn off our imagination. And a lot of people think visualization, oh, if it's imagination, it's not real. I don't believe that at all. I feel like our being able to visualize with your imagination helps you see better with your third eye.
yeah.
If you're always a visual person and like you have such a connection to art, I would imagine that like that is going to be something for you. And I know you said right now maybe that's not the biggest thing, but I feel like actually, that would draw even more visualization for you is seeing it and trusting that what we're imagining or what we feel we're imagining is actually what we're seeing. Because you you can't see all the realms around you. You know what
No.
I mean? So why wouldn't you throw that protection in the air? Why wouldn't you visualize certain um energies? Like they say that you can visualize a violet flame. Now it sounds scary, but you want to visualize a violet flame around your house or around where you stay, where you spend a lot of time, because it will activate psychic protection around you. But if you can just visualize your house and imagine a little purple flame, why wouldn't you throw that up there? It takes like a couple seconds to do that. Do it, especially if you're a spiritual person.
Hmm. For sure. Do you have anything else you want to add in or more like simplification or clarity on the discernment of uh of your channel?
I feel like discernment is recognizing what is fear based and what is divine based. And fear based, you're going to get a huge gut punches, and things like that. Divine based, I feel like feels more like you're about to jump off the high dive, but you're going to do like a swan dive with it and you're just scared to show. It's like feeling like you're walking up and you're excited. It's like going on a roller coaster is kind of
Hmm.
divine energy where you're doing it, you want to do it, you're excited for that adrenaline rush. The fear that comes in is no's, right? The fear that comes in is, oh, this is ego. This isn't something to say. It's very physical and visceral for me with discernment.
Hmm.
It is literally the saying of if it's not a full body yes, it's a no. For me with channeling, and even like, for example, when I read for people, I will get a thought before I speak it, obviously. And I might wrestle with it inside. You won't see it, or maybe you do on my face, but you won't hear it yet until I really feel the full body yes or no. Sometimes that happens to me where things keep coming, right? So if we're talking, I'm getting a message And then 2 minutes later, I might say it, but I've gotten it right now. It's because that thought of say it, say it, say it 3 times has came up. It's just really knowing what your body is radiating to say yes and what your body is like, don't do it. You shouldn't go there. You're going to feel a literal pullback, but you can also program that yourself. You can absolutely ask, okay, your spirit guides, your spiritual team, your spiritual counsel, however you want to refer to, please show me physical signs. You could say, I want to feel more physical signs for a no than a yes. Maybe you'd rather no, I don't want to say this than a yes. You can
Hmm.
program that, you can ask that. As long as you keep practicing and building your connection and honoring your practice, you're going to get, the universe is going to reciprocate. Like one of the best relationships that you can have is a relationship with the universe, because it's always reciprocative. You just got to do it too. You got to put
Yeah.
yourself out there too. But
Yeah,
that's
you
that's really
literally
what
have to meet it. It's not just, you can't be
exactly.
passive. Like you cannot
Exactly.
be passive at
Yeah,
all.
it's not going to be given. You have to show that you're willing to meet it there. You have to show that you're willing to do that.
Yeah. That's I tell my clients that all the time of building intuition. So it's interesting to then have just another layer of someone that's a spiritual medium saying the same things of that, of building the discernment for your channel is the same as building the discernment of your intuition. If you want to be more
Mm,
connected to yourself, it's literally one and the same. And it's recognizing the yeses and the nos. That's the
absolutely.
discernment. But you have to practice it. I'll tell
Mhm.
people too of because it's so scary, or there's the whole big people pleasing that people don't want to say no to certain things when they know it's a no, but then they're too afraid to, follow through with
Awesome.
something. Say like do it the least threatening thing. If someone asks you, a friend, a good friend that you feel safe saying no to, asks you out to coffee, what does your body say? Yes or no? That's that's the stepping stone to then it builds to all the other things.
Literally, it's
Hmm.
as simple as that. It's as simple as that.
And then you said with opening your channel, it's as simple as just asking.
Yeah, I do
That's
believe that.
wild.
But I know. I like to say just to ask, it sounds like so simple, but like also, I had a conversation with a friend the other day and they were wrestling with a decision. And I said, the divine is not going to be the decision that's going to come in your face all the time. It's going to be the quiet answer that it's there. It's going to be that quiet, intuitive nudges. It's going to be the self-awareness of, I feel that, I sense that. It's not going to try and tempt you to the other side. It's not going to try and be so flashy. That's
Hmm.
that's not really what it is. It's actually quite more simple. It's just, again, we're programmed to think we have to do all these things, or we have to buy into all this stuff to really activate it. The reason why all these things are here, why all these people are trying to sell you things, is really, okay, and maybe this is weird to say, but really it's because they want your power, because they want to know your power so then they can access it with helping you in some way. I mean, not to get there, but that's how I feel,
Hmm.
there, when really the most important tools you have is yourself, your self practice, and testing it out, working with the universe. Ask and you shall receive. I very much believe that.
And then you have to trust yourself. Yeah.
Hugely.
So what do you think about that? Why people don't trust themselves or their intuition and their channel?
Sometimes I think it's even that they trust themselves, they just don't like what they know they need to hear, or they don't like what they trust themselves about, so
Yes.
they turn it off. You know what I mean? It's like, let's use dating for example, okay? It's like, you see a red flag and you're feeling the red flag, but you might really like the person that has the red flag because you can see the potential, but that red flag is just fire engine red. And you know it, but you still go forward and so right there, free will, do what you want, but right, like, don't be hurt or unexpected when it turns out to be what it was. You know what I mean? What you saw, right? It's like that's the acceptance of it. So at the same time, we might label it as we don't trust ourselves because of other decisions that we allowed ourselves to go along with that we knew wasn't right for us. But really, trust, that's just action following through that you don't trust. You know what I mean? It's like, that's really what it is. But I feel like sometimes people just don't want to always trust that they're right. So you're going to have a block with your intuition if you feel that way. Trusting yourself is scarier than believing everybody else.
And truly, and it's So then it's not even the trust, it's the accepting that you keep choosing self-betrayal.
Yeah, hugely. Yeah. All the mirrors. I feel like any spiritual journey, it's like, we know this. Like, it's not white and rainbows and sunflowers, even though we love it. Like, no, like, it is mirrors, reflection, growth, ascension, go to the dark side, come up to the light side, see who you really are. Like, there's so much, like,
It's
you're,
all
you're
of
going
it.
to ascend.
And that's that it's all of it. It's not
It is.
just one end of the spectrum. Because if you're hanging out
Absolutely.
in one end of the spectrum, then yeah, you've lost the plot.
Hugely. Hmm.
Yeah, and that's that duality component. But that's huge actually to know of we do actually trust ourselves. We're just
Hmm.
not always following through with it.
Yeah. Big
Damn.
time.
Because I could look back on all the decisions that I made of where it turned out so poorly or even just horrific and traumatic. I can pinpoint to where I knew that this wasn't gonna go well.
Yeah.
Or maybe I didn't know to the extent, but it's the fact that I kept choosing, and then you kept choosing. And then there's some parts, relationships, if you choose for too long,
Mhm.
then you get yourself stuck for a period
Yeah.
of time. I don't believe everyone's ever stuck forever, but
Right.
then you do to where now it's so hard to leave from the choices that
Yeah.
you've made. Like
Yeah.
that's then it's the long road of coming back of like you said that acceptance of the choices and the decisions that you've made, coming back to love in that sense to then accept the trust again.
Yeah. Yeah. It's huge.
Hmm.
Mirrors, man, mirrors.
They're literally everywhere.
Yeah.
So with that, I guess, what are ways that people could build trust if there is
I
all
think
these layers of self-betrayal?
I mean, I think it is those small little ones, the small ways like that you said, ask yourself, what does this feel? Or like, especially when you're, say you don't trust yourself really well, then maybe a spiritual journey is kind of what you need to be on because you're gonna learn, something like this is gonna teach you that, and I will be so vulnerable here. My spiritual journey, my acceptance of, hey, I'm not crazy, okay? Because, I was in a marriage that I don't want to talk bad, but like we had two very different viewpoints. I was with a triple Virgo, like for a big three, like that's crazy, right? And I have Virgo moon, so that's why there was a lot of connection still. But it was a lot of getting over the fact that everyone's like, I don't know, maybe, to meeting people to actually read for and connect. That was I could trust myself. When I read for the first person ever that like I had no connections to, very much I did a free reading. I'm like, hey, let me just try this, amazing breakthrough. Amazing breakthrough. That showed me I could trust my visual. That showed me I could trust what I was hearing. That showed me I could trust all of, and I didn't have to dismiss my voice. And maybe that's the key is don't dismiss your voice. But I really think learning to trust yourself is taking chances on yourself and saying, I'm going to try and do this. Or I'm going to do this. You go to work, ask yourself, which way do you take, the long way or the short way? Because maybe the short way is going to actually take you longer today. What feels good in your body? And then tell me how that ride was for you. You know what I mean? Like maybe that ride was way more enjoyable that day. Maybe you had a little sign happen to you while you were there. Maybe you got to get coffee earlier, something like that. I think it's those little wins and tests that will always help you trust and validate yourself more. For me, with the paranormal and all of that, my mediumship was huge 1010% validation that it wasn't my imagination, that I was absolutely sensing things happening, and that I was way more than just, which is nothing wrong with it, but just, a plain old woman in the Midwest, you know what I mean? There was way more to me. We all have more than what society wants to deem you as. It's waking that up. So, yeah.
For sure, I agree with the little things because
Mhm.
that's one of those things that you blink and then you don't realize how much progress you've actually made and
Yeah.
or like you're laying your foundation one piece at a time, one
Yeah.
little moment, one little decision, one little follow through at a time, and then it's like, oh, 2 years from now, you're like, look at that. And then you feel strong enough to make a bigger leap because you did all these little things.
Right. Hugely.
Yeah,
All
that's
of them
huge.
matter. Hmm.
And that's, yeah, journeys.
Journeys.
Journeys on the self-trust. Like, and I think what I would want to say with that too is like you're gonna mess up.
Mm.
You're gonna make a decision and then but then that's more information. I tell people
Yep,
that all the time. I'm like you're just receiving more information.
exactly.
If you know that you wanted to say no to the coffee, but then you said yes anyway, then how does your body respond to that? Because that's information. Now you're understanding the no better and how it's responding to it because you did something when you didn't want to. Like,
Yeah.
and that gets to be okay as
Yep.
long as you don't
Yeah.
like don't keep choosing it, but we will
Right.
still sometimes, regardless of how
Oh,
experienced you
yeah.
are.
Yeah, you got to know yourself.
Mhm.
And with knowing yourself and the self-awareness, that's how you deal with the acceptance of maybe you did something that didn't go into your healing journey, but you learned something. Like you're saying, you're always going to take something from it no matter what.
So the next question, the spiritual community loves to talk a lot about society, caregivers, media, and religion and how they program us, which you've kind of already talked about a little bit so far.
Yeah.
But yeah, all those outside sources programming our mind, our being. Can you speak to that, how that would program our channel as well?
It is really like, the best example and the easiest example is going to be kind of the one we talked about, where it's like, the movies or Hollywood, for example. Like, if you are consistently programming yourself with, actually, yeah, let's take it there. So, I love ghost stories. Obviously, I'm a huge paranormal fan, but I used to constantly watch like ghost stories or the Dead Files. Ooh, that was my favorite one. Okay, that was on sci-fi. It was a mediumship show. She was really dope. Amy Allen, amazing medium, so cool episodes. But none of the episodes are really like positive and happy, and like really they show you these families that are terrorized by spiritual encounters. Okay, and she is giving clarity by saying this is what I feel, but you're not seeing how things are cleaned up, you're not seeing how things are healed, you're not seeing any of
Hmm.
that. So anyways, me programming myself in that scenario at the beginning made me feel that some of the biggest impacts I would have as a medium would be scary stuff. Like I wanted to go to all the haunted houses and I wanted to, all that stuff. When actually the biggest impacts I've had have not been, those sort of paranormal ones. It has been the one-on-one readings with people. It's been doing pop-ups at such a high vibe store, and it's completely different than just like, oh, I sense this and I see this. The first part of mediumship for me, what I thought, from what I sensed, from what I programmed myself, was to only work for spirits. And that might be a little weird, to only work for spirits. Really, my biggest impact is working with others and learning to help them see the signs that they can't quite see, that help them on their alignment paths as a soul. But everything that you feed yourself, as far as music, as far as what you're taking in, as far as what you read, all of that programs how you sense things, how you feel things. That is all building possible experiences that you're saying you want to have. Even maybe you really don't, but you keep showing that, you're a magnet, right? We're magnets. So what we are consuming and allowing and glorifying is what you're drawing into your life. So my big thing that I say to people when they start doing readings is like, you really don't want to watch all of the crime shows and everything like that. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, I love something good in my ear while I'm working and it makes me interested. But really, you're glorifying someone's death.
Hmm.
And that's shitty. Even though we're remembering people, you want to know how gory people can be. And that's what you're telling yourself when you listen to stuff like that. You want to know how bad people can be. And some people might say, so you can protect yourself, right? But at the same time, then you're only thinking a certain way. You're only looking at things a certain way and stuff, instead of acting in your light and not allowing fear to capsulize and capture you in that sense. So I really feel like society, TV, Hollywood, what we are being shown, that can all program you. And if you grow up with a family that is super religious, and that is one way, and you're the black sheep, you're supposed to kind of unlock this other side of life. That's a hard journey. You're here to do that. But with you're also here for a reason with a family like that. So you learn how to break out of it and change. But they're going to program you at first that everything that you think is probably bullshit and that you have to only honor what they're telling you to honor. That's part of that soul liberation I was talking about at the beginning.
Hmm.
That's programming your channel,
Yeah.
like that's what it is. It's like those sort of circumstances that you have to get out of yourself and also curate your channel as to how you want to experience the world and dissect the messages that are coming in.
Yeah, because it's a feedback loop.
Hmm.
Like what
Yeah.
you're consuming is what's you're also then contributing to putting that back out and then attracting it back in.
Yep.
And yeah, so I mean, that's the same with the self-trust. If we keep making those choices and then the relationship with the channel, the relationship with the intuition, that it's so connected.
Yeah.
And it's it's that fine line of everything matters and nothing matters at the same
Yeah.
time. And how do you
Right.
like it all like has a purpose and
It
we
all
need
has a
to be
purpose.
so mindful, but then it's also like you don't have to be so serious, but you do,
Yeah.
but you don't.
Yeah. It's attachments. That's the attachments part of it, right? Like not to get too attached to everything, but to
Hmm.
see it all.
Yeah. But yeah,
Hmm.
so then keeping the channel clear is yeah, being
Yeah.
mindful of what you're listening to. Yeah, what you're
Yeah.
watching, what you're listening
Absolutely.
to, what you're actually like eating, the people, the environments you surround yourself with, even work. Like work takes up so much of our lives. Like that environment is actually pretty crucial.
Yeah, it is. It's huge and that it all matters. It all matters to because if you're feeling down or feeling constantly depressed and everything like that, your channel is probably only going to be able, which isn't bad maybe for some people that you connect with, but your channel is probably only going to recognize people that are depressed and need you in that light. Whereas, you know what I'm saying? So that's another reason why just be mindful of what you're allowing into your life and set your boundaries not just on people but on your own experience of this is how I want to live, what's the lifestyle, because it's a lifestyle, it's a lifestyle for sure.
Yeah, once you start going, there's moments like I would teeter every now and then on this like spiritual journey and this like choosing my soul and that soul alignment in that way and liberation. There's I would go back and forth with it, but then there's a moment where you hit that there's no other option
Yep.
and you either make it a lifestyle or you don't because it gets to a point to where you can't have one foot in and one foot out. It's more like you're all in and then you learn how to enjoy the human experience while you're here versus disconnecting from the spiritual realms to be a human. Like those are two completely different things.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry to my dog is in the background. I'm so sorry that he's barking.
Hopefully,
But
I don't
yes, I
think it's
agree
too
with you.
loud. So what's another important practice with channeling and connecting to spirit when it comes to divination? Can you explain what divination is and what that looks like?
Divination to me is the use of different objects, cards, certain tools, like I said, pendulums at the beginning. That to me is the use of like almost another medium. Like divination to me is almost like mediumship in a sense, but the human is the item that is being divined. But you are essentially asking for these other objects to connect with the spiritual realm and help you bring through certain messages of clarity. It's communication tools, right? So the practice of divination to me, everything has a purpose. I kind of, if you see my readings, I use lots of different tarot decks, right? I use lots of different oracle decks because they all stand differently. Not everybody is like that, but for me, purposely and purposed, on purpose, my decks, I say, this is for spiritual growth. Okay, this is for what we need to see. This is a situation of focus. And it's visuals. It's just helping you understand messages that are trying to get through. It's another way. People can use divination in mirrors, people can use divination in crystals. It's just another tool essentially to use. And that's why I do it in my readings because of how there might be certain things that we're not hearing properly or that we're not seeing properly, but the card is going to help you punch in the intuitive nugget that's really there for the message to be given. So I feel like it's just another tool to bring messages through and give us more of like a hard visual clarity than what you're just intuiting.
Okay, so it's a tangible
Hmm.
medium to help
Yes,
you
absolutely.
channel. That's
Hmm.
divination.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
that's so funny because I use art.
Yeah, that is divination.
Yeah, and I've had people, this was years ago, maybe around the time where my esthetician was like, "You're
Yeah.
you're way too psychic. What are you doing?" And it's the using it through art and like reading people through art, but didn't realize that's what I was actually doing because people all the time would say like, "You're what? How are you picking up on that? How are you seeing that in my art?" And I'm like, "It's my training, my art therapy training. Like I've learned how to read the art." And they're like, "No, no, you're not.
It's,
That's
yeah.
not. No, you just pulled out way too much information from a simple art piece."
Yeah. Yeah, you're literally art is a medium with that, like you're saying. And so you were divining with art and picking stuff up from that. That's exactly what it is. That's essentially what that object, that tangible object, is just speaking to you in a different way than just what is seen. So, like a paintbrush can be a total divination object. You can ask and charge those items to
Mm,
say, I only want to see and create messages that are for this purpose of my life. And see what happens.
yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Wow. Also with divination, how is that coming in with the five senses and then our chakras as tools, using all of that to make our lives better?
Yeah. I definitely think divination can help you unlock some of your chakras. So if you have a pendulum, and that was one of the first things I was shown by one of my mentors, was she showed me how to clear my energy with a pendulum. And I never knew I could do that. She was the first person I even got a pendulum from, but you can clear and cleanse stuff with that. And so with our chakras, right? For me, my chakras, just like at the beginning of my readings, I was showing, I'm touching all of those, I'm activating those. So I'm trying to leave it an open flow because your channels are your chakras are part of your channel, is what I'm trying to say. It is that line. And if you're blocked, right, if you're feeling heavy in a certain spot, that's going to be harder for you to really either get the message or to ground. A lot of the times, personally, for me, I'm actually not very grounded. I'm really up here is unlocked. My root chakra and my sacral are usually really blocked. And those are my trust, right? Trust issues, self-confidence issues, and that. And so you have to work on understanding the physical feelings of where those chakra points are. And divination can help us do that. And I feel like with the five senses, just like with clairaudience, claircognizance, clairvoyance, clairsentience, and so many other clairs, right? Those are all just the terms of how you're receiving messages, how you are interacting with the universe. And if you think of a magnet, because we are magnets, so if you think of a magnet, if a magnet has a bunch of dust and dirt and crud on it, it's not going to be as magnetized, right? But once it's cleaned off and it's open and there's nothing blocking that frequency, it's going to get whatever it needs to, right? It's going to hit
Mhm.
everything. So that's how I feel like with divination can be a tool to help you clear yourself, not just give messages. Okay. It helps us feel and sense and give the messages more. But then the five senses and the chakras are like your tune-up spots. It's like when you have a car and you have to make sure you get an oil change. You have to make sure your chakras are clear and open and you're working on whatever is blocking it. Just
Mhm.
brings up our lessons to what needs to be removed so we're more clear.
And that's where the action comes in.
Absolutely.
And then the same thing of meeting spirit and meeting the universe is like they're showing you where what's blocked, but then it's on you to take the action to consistently choose to clear it and cleanse it because
Absolutely.
how we show up continues to block or not. So,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
yeah,
Completely.
definitely.
Mhm.
We have just one full other question left, and I want
Okay.
you to speak more to the difference of the soul purpose versus the
Um,
human experience.
the biggest thing that comes into it is a lot of the times I feel like you might question, why you might have been brought into this world with a certain family, why we're brought into this world with certain circumstances, why certain people have certain journeys that seem, so much harder. And then we have the soul purpose, which is the soul that's always trying to break out. The soul is really trying to get you to move forward into more of the ascension activities. The human experience, I feel like, is a lot connected to our ancestry that we're in, our bloodlines that we chose to be in here. Like we have two purposes, is how I really feel. I feel like we do have the purpose to the bloodline that we've incarnated with. Now, what I mean by that is whatever lesson or mirrors that you're consistently shown. And a lot of the times it's breaking out of something, right? It's honoring yourself no matter what is the human experience in some way, whatever that looks like for people. Okay. So the human experience is to remove family karma, break generational curses, ascend a family line, be the black sheep, to be this, person that needs to be known in the world, whatever that is. Okay. The soul is learning to, how do I want to say this, absolve, work through the human experiences of things that were still unresolved. But you have to go, and we choose to incarnate into these different human self, right? Our avatar, to unlock those lessons for the soul, right? And I do feel like at some point, we don't have to choose to incarnate back, but I feel like there's certain lessons as a soul that you have to learn, just like, we kind of go to school, or there's certain process until you ascend. It's the same thing here. And you're the magic juice within the human experience, but a lot of the times we cater more to the human than the soul. So instead of, some people wonder, why am I in this family? Think, instead of why they're affecting you, how you're here to affect them, and how you're here to say, if I could watch myself, if I could watch this human I'm being right now, what would I cheer them on to do? What would I push them to do? That's the soul helping push forward the human experience. But our ego, I feel like, is truly what's trapped in every human experience, and we're here to unlock that. And so it's two different purposes. It can sound really big and heavy, but there's a reason why we're drawn to certain things. There's a reason why you're naturally good at something. It's because you've done other lives before. And this is another avatar. This is another chapter in your Akashic records, right? This is another chapter of breakthroughs that you're here to do. And this human experience is what you're here to live through, these human lessons that come with this bloodline, with this action. It's like, if we all work together, we can move forward. Well, it's the same thing. It's very individual, but if we can move these individual lives better, if we can choose to make humankind more lit up, each soul at a time, it's going to be much, how do I want to say this? A higher vibration, right? A higher frequency, higher alignment than being ego led by society. Does that make sense? It's a
Yeah.
lot. It's a
It's more
lot.
so, yeah, like not being the ego led because like you said, duality is here. So we're gonna experience like that high vibe, the low vibe, but not being attached to it, and the human and the
Yeah.
ego not being attached to what it is, and yeah,
Yeah.
being led from something beyond just the
Absolutely.
human realm and that's and two of the sole purpose doesn't mean it has to be this outward big thing and
Mm-mm.
like you're a really big name and or you're so quote unquote
Right.
successful, whatever that means, like your sole purpose can be so much smaller than what you think it is, but it's exactly what you're supposed to be doing.
Well, huge. I mean, and you think about the people that inspire you. You think about the people that have been on your journey. Like, there were people on my spiritual journey that, yes, I'm not the big purpose for them, but their sole purpose, that small conversation lit and opened me up, right? That's people living in their soul purpose. When they light you and open you up and turn people in directions of ascension in some way or of betterment, that's soul purpose right there. And that's more impactful than being any form of a celebrity or any big name in this life. We just get locked into, you want fame. No, you want ascension. You want to help people lighten up, literally.
Mhm. And it can
Yeah.
be so easy with the soul purpose and the human experience if people try to just cut themselves off from the human
Okay.
experience
Yeah.
because they'll just get too attached to the ascension component of like, well, my human and my family, like that just weighs me down. I'm not like them and
Yeah.
I'm so much different, da 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 da, and I'm going to like cut, block, delete all of that so I
Yeah.
can just be with my soul. But like you said, you incarnated in the bloodline for a reason, which
For
is
real.
also connected to the soul purpose.
Huge. And a lot of the times you are the family member of ancestors before that couldn't get the job done. You're a part of their soul in that moment. And you could have incarnated in that time frame too. That's not uncommon. But I definitely think too, there's magic to your bloodline. There's magic to any bloodline you come into. And if you study or know the heritage or ancestry of that bloodline that you've incarnated into, you can use that with your natural intuitive gifts to make rituals 10 times more potent. And that's something too that I think people kind of dismiss, you know. Look up your heritage, look up your ancestry, do stuff that this person, this family line is connected with that magic. You're going to see even more of a pull, more spiritual validations, more activations of this human experience that you're living.
That actually, I think that's so important for people in the spiritual community and people becoming interested in the spiritual community is connect to your own lineage when
Yeah,
you
it's
do these
huge.
things. And then the divination and the tools that you would use, your
Yeah,
own ancestry, bring that in because it's
yeah,
you were born in this bloodline for a reason and you're meant to continue to carry it on, like make it your own and it doesn't have to be so rigid, but
right.
steer in the way of your own lineage because I mean that's the whole cultural appropriation that we just get so because it's the fun things that look fun
Yeah,
on the outside, but it's so many other people's history that we're impeding on. And it's like the spiritual journey is for everyone, and there's so many different ways to connect. And yeah, if you want to use the human tools, that's the human experience part.
yeah, absolutely.
Big things there. I love that you brought that in because it's so, so important for people
Yeah,
to
it's
know
huge.
that. And yeah, just to continue to talk about it too. Like this is for everyone, but then yeah, also remember where you're coming from.
And that's a respect component, right? A respect of
Yes.
other cultures too, is to not, like you said, culture appropriate. Like I have a huge respect for voodoo. Like voodoo is a huge thing that I respect for. And maybe in another life that was a reality for me. Maybe that's why I'm so connected. But I don't practice it because I know that's also not what I'm here to do, but I can still have respect for it and honor it without trying to take on, you know, something that wasn't here for me, wasn't meant for me, wasn't meant for my bloodline. That's not the case. So respect it, you know?
hmm And that goes a long way, like holding that reverence with anything that you do, and especially with mediumship and you're trying to connect to spirit, like that reverence is what's, I mean, they pick up on that. And
Huge.
that's also the feedback loop of if you're, how are you showing up to connect? Are you
Yeah.
showing up in a selfish way to stuff to get your needs? Or you're coming with reverence and respect and staying in your own lane? And then can you
Mhm.
receive whatever you're meant to receive?
Yeah, and spirit will humble you. I will say that, just speak on that really quick. Like if you go into this as like, I just want a way to get famous, or I, you know, not intuitively here to help people, no disrespect, but spirit will laugh at you and leave you sitting on your hands. So you know what I mean? Like it's not, you're not, they're not going to communicate. Intention is everything. And I'm very grateful and I hold a lot of respect to the spiritual realm, not just my spirit guides, to the spiritual realm of all the different types of spirits and different religious backgrounds and heritages and things like that that have still stood on the outside. Let me acknowledge them, but also they honor their own boundaries and spiritual boundaries in spirit too. But yeah, if you are in it for the wrong reasons, you're not going to be you're not going to move forward with it, is how I feel with it.
That's where you'll get your shit rocked.
Yeah. Yeah, hugely. Yeah, because you're
Yeah.
playing with fire. You're playing with fire.
And we're just a silly human, so we
Yeah,
go and feel it.
exactly. So,
Like,
yeah.
yeah, we're gonna feel it hard.
Right.
Well, with all of that, so tell us all about your offerings, what you're here to give the world, how people can get into contact with you, all of that.
Yeah, so right now I am doing readings. I do a lot of Zoom one-on-one readings, and people can book into those into my link in my bio or the links that you have for my stand store. You can book a 1 hour, 30-minute reading with me. I'm building a course and I'm going to be testing this out right now. But I'm going to be opening those doors back up in the fall for new people coming in, and it's called the Initiated Channel. And essentially, with the Initiated Channel, I'm helping you identify what needs to be open and unlocked for you to continually receive messages and to know how to actually use your channel, not just to give messages, but for your own decision making, to be able to resonate and see what is aligned for you and to be your most spiritual self. And I'm not necessarily telling you to do stuff, I'm helping you unlock your own codes in it because everything has to be very personalized to yourself. So I'm super excited to do that. That's something I'm testing right now, which is really exciting. It's a 4-week program and it's amazing. I love unlocking people and helping people see it and hearing their stories, which is super exciting. But then also I do weekly lives on Instagram and I'm also on TikTok a lot more right now. And I'm on Threads. And on Threads, if you follow me on there, you're gonna get rituals, spells, actual things that can be tools for you to use, copy paste, write them down, put them in your journal of things to try, which is great. But right now I'm just kind of helping others, still doing readings, which I love to do, and building this course, which will hopefully help unlock other people that want to activate their channel.
I have two things to say. One, that's how you know that there's integrity and authenticity there. If you're going to a reader and they're saying, I'm here to like unlock you or teach you how to like use the tool. I'm not trying to like
Mhm.
tell you exactly what to do and be this cultivate this like dependent
Mhm.
relationship. So like that's huge. That's one thing that you want to be looking for in
Yeah.
people. And then the other thing is, yeah, if you're loving what you're hearing with Kristen, but you want to get a little taste of the readings themselves, her IG lives for sure. Like she does those weekly lives. You've been doing them for a while. How long?
Mhm. I feel like it's been like almost 3 years now, consistent, maybe four, 3 or 4 years, maybe. Actually, maybe 4 or 5. Now that I think about it, I feel like I'm going on like my 5th year of going live a lot consistently. I'm getting back into more consistent practices, of course, with it, but yeah. Hmm.
That's insane. I did not realize it was like up more on the 5 year range.
Yeah, because I started on Facebook before I went to Instagram. And
Mm,
Instagram actually was way more beneficial for my spiritual business. Like I will say that, like not every social media platform is for you, for your collective, for the people you're meeting. But
mm.
IG for sure has been. But yeah, that was like probably 3 years, Facebook 2 years.
Yeah, so if
Um,
you're curious about getting a reading from her, but you're a little like, I don't know, then like go watch her IG lives and then you'll know.
yeah. Yes,
Know for
exactly.
sure. Um, and last question, what are some ways that you create light?
I create light by showing up and helping others validate their self-awareness and being kind. I feel like if you're kind, no matter where you go, you're creating light. If you are honoring, acknowledging, and making someone know that they're loved, you're giving light. And I also create light by honoring myself. And that looks like just really holding myself, caring for myself, and saying that I'm worthy to show up. So I show up to create light. That's what it is.
That part's huge, of believing that you're worthy to show up
Yeah,
and then receive.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Again, this feedback loop.
Right.
It's so important.
Keep going. Yes.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you so much for being here. This was such a pleasure. It was such an easy conversation, and I know a lot of people would just listen and receive a lot of value and probably like way more questions. So definitely go follow her. But thank you all for listening. And remember, when we see the light in ourselves, we create light in others.